Hello everyone and welcome back to GPT React 30 series. So this is the part 3 of the series and today we are going to build a form using React form components. Now we are using GPT in this series because it greatly improves the workflow and saves us the time of writing the code. So usually when we create video tutorials on YouTube, they are like you write the code line by line and sometimes you get bored and sometimes you lack the patience to see the entire video to actually code. But in this case, you have the code snippets ready and you just have to focus on the core concepts. And since we are building libraries in this series, so the core focuses on the concepts rather than the syntax because the syntax will keep on changing with each library update. And there's no point in remembering the syntax. We can simply get it from ChatGPT. And we are going to focus on the concepts itself. Now coming back to the video, we are building a React form using React Hook form. So React Hook form is a library which is really useful and it greatly saves the code. Like you don't have to create a state variable for each form component, manage the state, manage the errors and validations. React Hook form does it by itself and it is a great library to reduce the line of code required to manage forms in your React project. So this is the form which we are going to build. There will be a name and email. And once we submit, there will be error validation and in case of email we have the email validation as well. So that is the entire goal. So for this, first thing we need to do is go to Stackbits, create an account, then click on the new project tab and click on the front end and select React JavaScript. Once that is done, then come back to White.js, and once you create the project, this is how it looks. Now coming back to ChatGPT, this is the prompt which I used. I will share the prompt into the chat description for reference. And we are going to install React Hook form and style components. So style components are basically CSS based components which can be used to write CSS directly into your JavaScript. So let's install that using npm install React Hook form and style components. By the time this get installed, let's create a new folder here called as components. And in the components folder, we are going to create a new file. So the file will be form component.js. So let's copy the form component into our code and add it within the components folder. So form component.jsx. And as you can see, the npm install is complete. So you can go to package.json and check the reactive forms and style components is installed. So coming back to the form component, we are going to import first React, then style from style components. Style is basically used to have the inline CSS as I mentioned. In the form component, let's import the two. Then we are going to use the use form hook, which is a hook in React hook form. So this is the hook which exposes the control method and other functionalities. So if you go to the get started part and if you go to the search section and if you search for use form, you can find the appropriate documentation. So it is a custom hook for managing forms. So it provides a lot of things like errors. Then the other modules, like for example, if we go to the code, we can see that it has a handle submit method. So handle submit is a method which is used to actually submit the form and check for violations. Then control is used to manage the state variables, like you don't have to manage the state variables yourself. And handle change, for example, when you are creating input, if you create a state variable and then handle change for handling the state variable input, that is handled by the control. Then form state contains the errors, so the errors which I showed just now. So these are the errors which are managed by the control. You can find all the props here. So and the documentation briefly provides the values. For example, if you search for control, which is a new component, you can find the documentation here and you can learn about it. So if you go to the control section, it is an object that is used for registering components to React to form, and you can find the documentation like this. So this is how it is used. You use a controller wrapper, and within that you pass on the component, and then you use the control to manage the state internally. So that's the usage of control. So let's first create a component and then move on. So we'll have a const form component. And in this form component, we will add the use form hook. So use form hook exposes these three methods. So let's copy that. Then we have the onSubmit method, which will passes the data which needs to be sent to the backend server. So this is the on submit hook. Then we have the form container. So form container is basically a wrapper component which is used internally by React form. So let's copy the form container, and you can find the documentation here for form container as well. So if you search for form container, I think, yeah. So there will be a form container somewhere here, and you can use it for, okay, form container is a style component, my bad. So form container is a style component with the form input hook. It is not a internal reactive form component. So form container is a style component. So style components are like this. You will name the component, then you specify the type of the HTML tag, and then you provide the style sets. So let's copy the styles from here and understand them one by one. So let's add them into our code. I think it is at the top of form component. So let's add it here. So then we will import the form component for now. So we'll go to return, then form component container and form group, then end the form group and end the form container. So this is the brief syntax. Then close the return tag and it's saved. Then form group is again the div tag with margin bottom one area. Then we have the label component. So label is basically label. And the important thing here is the controller itself. So controller is the wrapper which is controlling the forms. So control is exposed from reactive form, and control is a wrapper component which takes the input as the form element and renders it internally and uses the control from reactive form to control the state variable. So this is the input, which is the input field which is specified in the style.input. So input tag. Then it has some CSS like width, padding, font size, border, and border radius. And then we are managing that using the control method. And we have the name, default value. So rules is the error validation. So it is a required field. And if it is not specified, then we specify the error that name is required. The next thing that we copy is the next form controller, which is for email. So this is another form group. So let's copy that as well. It has a label, then controller, then it is required field, then we have a pattern. And if the pattern does not match, then we specify that it is an invalid email. Again, this is an input. And last but not the least, that button, which is for submit. So we have the types by which the on submit method gets called. So this was briefly the form component. Let's import that into our app.jsx. So let's remove the React logo, use state, and this boilerplate code. Then let's import the form component from components. Import form component from dot slash component slash form component. It's saved. Then initialize the form component here. It's saved. So this will take some time to refresh, like there is an HMR update, and it will then refresh and reload into our code. If there is an error, we will see it in our console. So you can type console shift I. So form component, form component. Yeah, we haven't exported the form component, so let's do that. So export default and then add form component. It's saved. And now let's see if the browser gets refreshed. So as you can see, we have the name, we have the email. Let's add an h1 tag into the top of the code. So we'll have a h1 tag. And let's like change the app.css a little. So we don't need the logo and other stuff. So let's remove that. Let's add a container plus. So this will have a width of 100% and display should be flex. Justify content center and flex direction point. So let's apply this to our app container. So we will change this to div with class name is equal to app container. Let's add a floating div. It's save. Then we don't need text alignment. So let's remove that. It's save. And as you can see, we have the reactive form ready. Now, if we don't type email and name, as you can see, email is required field is coming. Then ASDF. So invalid email address, then ASDF, and the email address is valid. Now, if we go to the console and if we hit submit, we have the data. So this is how we use reactive form, and basically this was a short tutorial on how to handle form state using reactive forms. And hope you found the tutorial useful. You can briefly explore reactive form in detail, understand it better. But mainly the main components that we have are the controller component, which is used to handle the form inputs and have the validations as well, and the on submit method. So that is internally passed on by use form. So yeah, that's it from my end for today. Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.